"Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Darcy," Elizabeth said, her tone sincere. "I had not considered your perspective, and I appreciate your willingness to share it with me." As the aftermath of the Netherfield ball left Elizabeth in a state of contemplation, the dance with Mr. Darcy had ignited a spark of curiosity within her, challenging her previous perceptions of him. Yet, Wickham's charm and the tales he spun still lingered in her mind, creating a conflict that was difficult to resolve. In the days that followed, Elizabeth found herself increasingly drawn to the idea of uncovering the truth about Mr. Darcy and Mr. Wickham. She decided to confide in her sister Jane, hoping to gain some clarity. One afternoon, as they sat together in the drawing room, Elizabeth broached the subject. "Jane, I've been thinking about Mr. Wickham and Mr. Darcy," Elizabeth began, her brow furrowed in concern. "I can't help but feel that there is more to their story than what we've been led to believe." Jane looked thoughtful. "What do you mean, Lizzie? Mr. Wickham seems so amiable, and Mr. Darcy, well, he has a reputation for being proud. But I trust your instincts." "I've spent time with both of them," Elizabeth continued, "and while Wickham's tales of woe are compelling, I can't shake the feeling that he may not be entirely truthful. I want to know more about Mr. Darcy's side of the story." Encouraged by Jane's support, Elizabeth resolved to seek out the truth. She decided to visit her friend Charlotte Lucas, who had recently become engaged to Mr. Collins, a cousin of the Bennet family. Charlotte had always been perceptive, and Elizabeth hoped she could provide insight into the complexities of the situation. When Elizabeth arrived at the Lucases' home, she found Charlotte busy with preparations for her upcoming marriage. After exchanging pleasantries, Elizabeth broached the subject of Mr. Darcy and Mr. Wickham. "Charlotte, have you heard about the history between Mr. Darcy and Mr. Wickham?" Elizabeth asked, her curiosity piqued. Charlotte nodded. "I have heard whispers, but the details are often muddled. It seems that Mr. Wickham has a way of captivating those around him." Elizabeth leaned in, eager for more information. "What do you know of Mr. Darcy's character? Is he truly as proud as everyone claims?" Charlotte considered her words carefully. "Mr. Darcy is a man of great wealth and status, which often leads to misunderstandings. However, I have seen glimpses of his true nature, and I believe there is more to him than meets the eye." Encouraged by Charlotte's words, Elizabeth decided to confront the issue head-on. The following day, she encountered Mr. Darcy while walking in the gardens. Gathering her courage, she approached him with a sense of determination. "Mr. Darcy," she began, her voice steady, "I would like to speak with you about Mr. Wickham. I have heard his account of your past, but I feel compelled to hear your side of the story." Darcy's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his features. "Miss Bennet, I appreciate your willingness to seek the truth. I must admit, my relationship with Wickham is complicated." As they walked, Darcy recounted the history between them. He spoke of Wickham's charm and deceit, revealing how Wickham had squandered the fortune left to him by Darcy's father and had attempted to manipulate Darcy's goodwill for his own gain. Elizabeth listened intently, her perception of Darcy shifting as she absorbed his words. "I had hoped to help him," Darcy confessed, his voice tinged with regret. "But he chose a path of dishonor, and I can no longer trust him." Elizabeth's heart raced as she processed the revelations. The man she had dismissed as proud and arrogant was now sharing a story of betrayal and disappointment. She felt a growing respect for Darcy, realizing that her initial judgments had been based on limited information. As they parted ways, Elizabeth felt a sense of clarity emerging from the chaos of her emotions. The truth about Mr. Wickham had begun to unravel, and with it, her understanding of Mr. Darcy deepened. She sensed that the path ahead would require further exploration of her feelings, but for the first time, she felt hopeful about the possibility of seeing beyond pride and prejudice. In the days following her conversation with Mr. Darcy, Elizabeth found herself in a state of introspection. The revelations about Wickham had shifted her perspective, and she began to see Darcy in a new light. Yet, the lingering doubts about Wickham kept her on edge, prompting her to remain vigilant in her observations. As news of Jane and Mr. Bingley's growing affections spread through Meryton, the Bennet family became the center of attention. Elizabeth was happy for her sister but felt a sense of anxiety about the impending visit from Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who had expressed her disapproval of the Bingley family's connections. One afternoon, while walking with Jane in the gardens, Elizabeth shared her concerns. "Jane, I fear that Lady Catherine will not take kindly to your relationship with Mr. Bingley. Her opinions are as strong as her influence." Jane sighed, her brow furrowing. "I cannot let her opinions dictate my happiness, Lizzie. Mr. Bingley is kind and genuine, and that is what matters most." Elizabeth admired her sister's resilience but couldn't shake the feeling that Lady Catherine's interference would complicate matters further. As if on cue, a letter arrived from Mr. Collins, announcing his imminent visit to Longbourn. The news brought a mix of dread and amusement to the Bennet household. When Mr. Collins arrived, he was as pompous and obsequious as ever. He lavished compliments on Lady Catherine, boasting of her superiority and his own connections. Elizabeth and Jane exchanged glances, stifling laughter at his absurdity. During dinner, Mr. Collins proposed a toast to Lady Catherine, declaring her the epitome of virtue and grace. Elizabeth, unable to contain herself, interjected, "Mr. Collins, while I appreciate your admiration for Lady Catherine, I believe it is important to recognize the merits of individuals beyond their social standing." Mr. Collins blinked in confusion, clearly unaccustomed to being challenged. "My dear Miss Bennet, you must understand that Lady Catherine's guidance is invaluable. She has taken me under her wing, and I owe her everything." After dinner, Mr. Collins turned his attention to the topic of marriage. He expressed his intentions to marry, and to Elizabeth's astonishment, he proposed to her. "I have long admired you, Miss Bennet, and I believe that our union would be highly beneficial for both our families," he declared, puffing out his chest. Elizabeth was taken aback. "Mr. Collins, I must respectfully decline your proposal. I do not wish to enter into a marriage based on convenience or obligation." Mr. Collins was flabbergasted. "But, Miss Bennet, you cannot be serious. A marriage proposal from me is a rare opportunity. Surely you must reconsider." "I assure you, Mr. Collins, my decision is final," Elizabeth replied firmly, feeling a surge of empowerment. The next day, as the family gathered for breakfast, Mr. Collins continued to press the issue, much to Elizabeth's dismay. Just then, Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy arrived for a visit, bringing a welcome distraction. Elizabeth felt a flutter of nerves as Darcy entered the room, his presence commanding yet intriguing. As the conversation flowed, Bingley's warmth contrasted sharply with Darcy's reserved demeanor. Elizabeth found herself drawn to Darcy's intelligence, and she sensed a mutual respect developing between them. However, Wickham's earlier words echoed in her mind, creating a tension she couldn't ignore. Later in the day, Elizabeth found herself alone with Mr. Darcy in the drawing room. The atmosphere was charged with unspoken words. "Miss Bennet," Darcy began, his tone earnest, "I hope you don't hold my cousin's behavior against me. He can be overwhelming." Elizabeth smiled, appreciating his honesty. "Mr. Darcy, I have come to understand that everyone has their own complexities. I am learning to look beyond first impressions." Darcy's gaze softened. "I admire your willingness to seek the truth, Elizabeth. It is a rare quality." Feeling emboldened, Elizabeth decided to address the elephant in the room. "Mr. Darcy, may I ask about your relationship with Mr. Wickham? I have heard conflicting accounts, and I want to understand." Darcy's expression shifted, a shadow crossing his features. "Wickham is not the man he appears to be. He has a history of deceit, and I regret having once trusted him." Elizabeth listened intently as Darcy recounted his past with Wickham, detailing the betrayal and manipulation that had marred their friendship. As he spoke, Elizabeth felt a growing sense of empathy for Darcy, realizing that his pride often masked a deeper vulnerability. "Thank you for sharing this with me," Elizabeth said softly. "I had not considered your perspective, and I appreciate your honesty." As they parted ways, Elizabeth felt a shift within herself. The barriers she had built around her heart were beginning to crumble, and she sensed that the journey ahead would require both courage and vulnerability. With newfound clarity, Elizabeth resolved to confront her feelings toward both men, understanding that the path to truth would not only reveal the intricacies of their characters but also challenge her own perceptions. As the days turned into weeks, the atmosphere at Longbourn grew increasingly charged with anticipation. The upcoming ball at Netherfield loomed large, and Elizabeth found herself grappling with her emotions regarding both Mr. Darcy and Mr. Wickham. The revelations about Wickham had unsettled her, and she was determined to approach the ball with an open mind. On the evening of the ball, Elizabeth donned her finest gown, a soft blue that complemented her complexion. As she prepared, she felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. Jane, radiant in her own attire, was buzzing with enthusiasm. "Lizzie, tonight will be wonderful. I can feel it," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "Indeed, I hope it will be," Elizabeth replied, though her heart was heavy with uncertainty. "But I fear that the presence of Mr. Wickham and Mr. Darcy may complicate matters." "Trust your instincts, dear sister," Jane encouraged. "Follow your heart, and everything will fall into place." Upon arriving at Netherfield, the grandeur of the ballroom took Elizabeth's breath away. The chandeliers sparkled, and the laughter of guests filled the air. As she scanned the room, her eyes were drawn to Mr. Bingley, who was already seeking out Jane. Elizabeth felt a warmth in her heart for her sister's happiness. But her gaze quickly shifted to Mr. Darcy, who stood in a corner, his expression contemplative. Despite her initial reservations, she felt a pull toward him, a desire to understand him better. Just then Wickham entered the room, his charming smile lighting up the space. Elizabeth felt a pang of conflict as he approached her. "Miss Bennet, you look enchanting this evening," Wickham said, bowing slightly. "I hope you are prepared for an evening of delightful dancing." "Thank you, Mr. Wickham. I appreciate your kind words," she replied, trying to mask her inner turmoil. As the music began, Wickham led Elizabeth onto the dance floor. They moved gracefully, and Elizabeth found herself swept away by his charm. Yet, a part of her remained cautious, recalling Darcy's warnings. Wickham spoke animatedly about his life and adventures, but Elizabeth couldn't shake the feeling that his words were too polished, too rehearsed. After a few dances, Elizabeth felt the need for a reprieve. She excused herself and stepped outside onto the terrace, seeking fresh air. The cool night breeze was a welcome relief, and she leaned against the railing, lost in thought. Moments later, Mr. Darcy joined her, his presence both comforting and unnerving. "Miss Bennet," he said, his voice low, "I hope you don't mind my intrusion." "Not at all, Mr. Darcy. I was merely taking a moment to gather my thoughts," Elizabeth replied, her heart racing. "You seem troubled," he observed, stepping closer. "Is it the company of Mr. Wickham?" Elizabeth hesitated, weighing her words carefully. "I find myself torn between what I have heard and what I wish to believe. Mr. Wickham has a way of captivating those around him, yet I am beginning to question the integrity of his character." Darcy's expression softened, and he stepped closer, his sincerity palpable. "I appreciate your willingness to seek the truth, Elizabeth. Wickham is skilled at weaving tales that appeal to the emotions, but I assure you his intentions are not honorable." Elizabeth looked into Darcy's eyes, searching for the truth behind his words. "And what of your own intentions, Mr. Darcy? You are often perceived as proud and aloof. Yet I sense there is more to you than that." Darcy's gaze intensified, and for a moment, the world around them faded. "I am not proud, Miss Bennet. I am simply guarded. My reputation has often preceded me, and I struggle to connect with others." Elizabeth felt a surge of empathy. "Perhaps we are both misunderstood in our own ways," she said softly. As they stood together, the tension between them shifted, and Elizabeth felt a connection that transcended their previous encounters. Just as she was about to respond, Wickham appeared, breaking the moment. "Ah, Miss Bennet and Mr. Darcy, enjoying the cool night air?" Wickham remarked, his tone laced with sarcasm. "I trust you are not discussing my character?" "On the contrary, Mr. Wickham, we were discussing the complexities of human nature," Elizabeth replied, her voice steady. "It seems we all have our masks to wear." Wickham's smile faltered, but he quickly regained his composure. "Indeed, Miss Bennet, but some masks are more revealing than others." With that, Wickham turned away, and Elizabeth felt a sense of relief wash over her. Darcy turned to her, his expression serious. "You handle him well, Elizabeth. Your strength is admirable." "Thank you, Mr. Darcy. It is easier to be strong when one is seeking the truth," she replied, feeling emboldened. As the night continued, Elizabeth danced with both Wickham and Darcy, each encounter revealing different facets of their characters. While Wickham's charm was undeniable, it was Darcy's depth that resonated with her. She began to realize that her feelings for him were evolving into something more profound. As the evening drew to a close, Elizabeth felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The dance of emotions had only just begun, and she sensed that the path ahead would be filled with revelations that would challenge her understanding of pride, prejudice, and love.